Well, hello and welcome once again to the DCL podcast, where we're inviting you to sit back, relax, and we'll be on our way shortly. Well, welcome back to the DCL podcast, your podcast to help you cruise a little smarter, and I'd like to welcome back to the show all the way down in Florida. How are you doing today, Christy?
I am well, Steve. How are you?
You're happy. You already ate.
I mean, yes.
I've got that all mixed up, don't I? For some reason, I got in my brain that like we were going to record and then you're going to go eat, but it's like we're going to record and then you're going to go have some quality family time.
That's right. I mean, it's 6:45. I think I would say 75% of the listeners know that it's 6:45. I've had my dinner.
Yeah, early
or at
dining.
Least I'm eating it.
Early dining has already been called. They're getting ready. They're cleaning things up for a second. And
exactly. Can I tell you something really quick about early dining, though? So I was just on the Wonder. Trip reports are going to come out, snippets or whatever, but I don't even know if we addressed this. My dining time was 5 p.m. Even for me, that was early.
Your mic keeps cutting out when you get really excited for some reason. So,
all right, I'll get less excited.
Okay.
So my dining time was at 5 p.m., which is early even for me. Like that was insane.
That was the wonder of the seas, not the Disney wonder.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's a difference.
just so that people don't think that, oh my gosh, you're bringing the dining time up a little bit earlier or something like that. So
thank God.
All right. We are going to turn I'm selfishly wanting to do this trip report for a lot of different reasons. I really love the guest. Her daughter's picture years ago, still one of my favorites. We were kind of talking about that beforehand, but we have booked a cruise on the Southern Caribbean, and it has been a while since this cruise actually happened, but we are going to go back in time and talk about the Disney magic. And to do that, I'd like to welcome back to the show all the way down in Atlanta. How are you doing today, Jenny?
Good.
Welcome back to the DCL podcast. What have you been up to for this past year?
Oh, so much going on. The kiddo from back in the day that had the crying face is now going to be 5. So can you believe that? She's now done 4 cruises. And yeah, we have just been ever since the world has opened back up, we've done 2 cruises. We've done a Western Caribbean, and then we also did the Southern Caribbean, which was a ton of fun. It was kind of what we called our makeup cruise, because we had done one back when she was, I think, 11 months old. And we just had all sorts of things go wrong, not with the sailing itself, just, we all got some of a sick bug and just, learning the ropes with an infant. And so this cruise was kind of our redemption cruise of, we did it when she was young. We've learned a lot since then, and we did it again and had a great time.
That's awesome. And the Southern Caribbean, Christy, this is a place that you enjoy, isn't it? But we don't get to go there very often because the ships just don't make it down there very often.
That's true.
So redemption cruise, sort of, not redemption, but, getting back out, redo cruise. This one is a 7-night cruise. We'll just jump right into it. Out of 7-night cruise down to the Southern Caribbean. It left out of Puerto Rico on the Disney Magic. First time you guys have been on the Magic, and going to some special islands that most of us don't get to go to unless you're on one of these cruises. Now, just out of curiosity, the Fantasy generally goes down there in the summer. Did you look at the summer cruise on the Fantasy versus the Magic? Why did you guys decide on the Magic?
We actually got a really good deal on it. We had gotten a decent deal beforehand, and then we actually lucked out with our travel agent for our final payment. It went down to guarantee status. So we saved about $1,500. Which was great. And this is an off-peak time. It's November versus the summer, which is more the peak times when school's out and everything. And since my daughter's still in daycare, it's easy just to pick her out of school, go on a cruise, come back versus fighting with all the tourists during the summer peak.
No, that totally makes sense, because I know that you've been on the Fantasy before, enjoy the Fantasy, but those prices get to be a little high in the summer, don't they, Christy?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. And in November, you get the benefit of the lower prices. There are less tourists in general on the islands, which is a benefit for both pricing and comfort. And it's not, 95 degrees with 95% humidity every single day. It might be, 70% humidity instead. So there's some weather advantages. So let's start with getting to the ship. The cruise leaves from Puerto Rico. Obviously, it's still United States territory, so it's not like you need passports to leave out of there or to fly in there, but there's still some logistical differences than just flying out of Florida, for example. How was your experience? Did you fly in the day before, or did you just fly in the day of the cruise? What was your travel situation like?
So we flew in the day before. We've been spoiled with being close. We've been driving to Florida. We've been driving the past few times. We haven't flown in a while. So we did fly the day before. So our cruise left on a Monday. So we left on Sunday morning, which gave us ample time to get there. We were fortunate out of Atlanta. We had a direct flight. We were one of the few in our cruise group that had a direct flight. A lot of people were connecting and a lot of people were concerned with different storms coming through, but people made it there safely. But yeah, we flew in the night before. We stayed at a hotel right by the port. So actually when we woke up the next morning, we looked out our window and we saw the ship sitting there.
Was it the Sheraton? Where did you stay?
It was the Hyatt place.
Okay.
So the Sheraton's closer. So, but this is a little bit farther back, but you could still see the ship. You could actually, if you wanted to, if you're really rambunctious, you could walk to the port.
So if you're Steve and Steve's family?
Yes, they could have walked. Because we actually saw people getting off the ship. We think it might have been like some crew like on a break or something, or people that did back to backs. They're actually walking off. We saw them like walking across the grass to go visit around. We stayed at a hotel we'd stayed at the last time we were there. And, we just kind of killed some time walking around. There's this new kind of like mini city center that opened up that's within walking distance. And when on Sunday night, they were having this huge party they had some performances and that. And I mean, it was packed. When the last time we were there, they didn't have all that. So it's kind of nice now that they're building up that area where they know, as more cruises come in during those off-peak times, it's a great place for the tourists to go when they're coming a day early.
Just out of curiosity, what was it like flying to Puerto Rico cost-wise? Was it comparable to flying down to Orlando? Or was it a little bit more expensive? And how about the hotel once you got there?
Definitely more expensive. That was one thing a lot of people said in our Facebook group. And this is a tip. If you are doing like a Puerto Rican cruise, go on the Facebook group because there's people back and forth talking about airline prices the entire time. Saying, hey, I found this deal, I found this, and like people are just sharing information. Flying out of a hub is good, both good and bad. Good because you have a direct flight, bad because the prices are higher. We actually lucked out. I woke up one morning and found we could get points. So we only spent 13,000 miles per person to get down there, which is insane considering it's like 300 or 400 for a one-way ticket. So we lucked out on that. And then on the way back, we found some good points. So we essentially only bought one ticket. We used everything else with our miles, which was awesome. But back when I was pricing it, it initially started out, I want to say about $450 1 year out. And the closer it got in, the price went up. And that's $450 per person round trip. Where towards the end, it was about at $700 per person round trip out of Atlanta. And a lot of people and of course, at that time, airlines are still getting up to speed. So people would either, all of a sudden their flight was either canceled or just went at different times. So there's a lot of people kind of changing their flights at the last minute. So definitely, my advice would be join a Facebook group because they are very vocal about flights, at least the ones that I've been in have. And 2, always keep checking prices. You never know when they're going to change and it can save you a lot of money. But I would definitely not wait till the last minute to go to Puerto Rico. If you know for sure, like when you book your cruise, you're good to go, book that flight. If you see it at a good price, just do it because more than likely it's going to go up.
I am slightly distracted. So I am thinking back to a picture that Nova, I believe, sent when she had a port stop in San Juan. And now I need to know, because it's all I can think of. Did you go to Subway in San Juan?
We passed quite a few, but no, we did not stop. But I will say we had a very great dinner at the Outback Steakhouse because that was the only one that had less than a 2-hour wait. So we did the very unique, we're saying one of these trips, we're going to do the full, experience. And so far we've gone to Olive Garden and Outback. So one of these days, like we're going to do it, but yeah.
Sometimes you just have to feed yourselves and be convenient.
Yes. When you have a child, yes, you got to get the food, the hangry and the snacks only last so long. You got to get the kids food and you got to eat.
Thanks for throwing that one my way, Christy. I always appreciate it. All right, let's get on the cruise. We're going to not talk today specifically about the ins and outs of all the entertainment necessarily on the Disney Magic. We've covered that quite a bit, although I'd like to get your thoughts on the Magic itself. But we're going to concentrate a little bit more on the ports. This is a very busy cruise. It kind of reminds me of doing like the Mediterranean cruises that you can do in the 7 days where you may have only one sea day. This one you have 2 sea days, but very busy ports where you start off out of Puerto Rico, you're on to Antigua, St. Lucia, day at sea, Aruba, Bonaire, day at sea, back to Puerto Rico. I like the fact you got a day at sea at the end personally, because I'm always about that. A little bit of relaxing before you get off. But what were your thoughts as far as being going ahead of time, planning for these many ports, especially, and we need to say that your daughter was 4 at the time, right?
Mm-hmm. It was definitely, I say we looked ahead of time at the different ports to see what can we do with a 4-year-old, because one thing we did run into a lot of places was 5 and up. Like we looked at like excursions and it was 5 and up, 5 and up, 5 and up. And that was one thing we struggled with because, our daughter was 4.5. So there's nothing we could do. We can't lie about her age. Disney has her age. So, that was kind of a challenge of what are we going to do? Is it just going to be getting a cab and going to the beach every time? Or are we just going to walk around? And I mean, we kind of did a mixture. We did, walking around, got a cab. We did one excursion to a beach resort. We just kind of went with the flow. I mean, it would have been nice to be able to do more stuff, but the age is what hurt us. Not to say hurt in regards to just excursions, because things were still opening up. Because that was one thing that people complained about was when bookings first opened, there was barely anything on there. And then as time went by, more were added. So people kept rechecking and more stuff was coming. But it was one of those where, if you were on that age of, under 5, it was kind of a struggle to find something. Or if you could find something, it was completely booked up. So that was the challenge that we had.
Can you think of an example of a tour you wanted to do, but weren't able to because your child wasn't 5?
Personally, when I just looked at the age first, just to kind of see what was available, not necessarily what we wanted to do versus what. I mean, a lot of the boats, you had to be 5 or you had to be 7. Like, even if you just did like the catamaran where they take you around and it's optional to go snorkel or do different things, like you had to be older. So even the fact where, one of us wanted to get off and, the other one stayed on the boat with her, you couldn't do that because you had to be an older age, even though they had life jackets and everything.
Probably, though, for required life jacket rules, they probably have different rules of requiring kids to wear life jackets or not, depending on the location for younger ages. And then it's just easier to just not have them on. So,
Christy, one thing that I've noticed as far as, and you bring up a good point here, Jenni, for people to kind of think about. And I realize that your situation is a little bit different because we saw that too on the cruises that we took, especially right after coming back with COVID, where, there'd be limited things offered and sometimes something would be added. So I think it was, you had a little bit of that going against you. But I've also noticed, especially like looking at the Greek Isles ones that we signed up for last year, this year, there seems like there's less stuff initially when you first book the cruise. And then as you slowly get there, they start adding stuff. And I kind of wonder versus, the stops where they go to all the time, Tortola, St. Thomas, they got their go-to things. These they only go to once or twice a year. Have you noticed that, Christy, as far as people making sure that they come back and double check to see what's added?
Yeah, I have. And really Europe, I think, is such a big one. Alaska, partially, obviously they go to Alaska every year, but then there's the one-offs that go to Icy Strait and then to Sitka. So those are not places that Disney is going week after week. So there are changes in vendors that we've experienced since, and that all these companies have experienced since the restart has started, and just trying to even shore up. I'm guessing all of this takes longer because with almost everything, what you're hearing is people are shore employees. So even I bet the people who are setting up the contracts with the onshore shore excursions are probably short employees. And so that it just means everything takes a little extra time. Or it takes a little bit more time to get back to you. So that means they're loading these excursions later.
So something just to be aware of, especially like those one-off cruises and really any cruise. I mean, even St. Thomas that they go to, you can always go back to and double check it. But definitely if you're going off to some of the one-off cruises over in Europe and down here to the Southern Caribbean.
And to that point, if you're booked and something is sold out, definitely check back, because there are definitely people who that either are concierge or platinum or whatever level they are, or any level really, that'll book some excursions and then change their mind or work out what they want to do. I would definitely tell people to check back to see what excursions exist, and then work with your travel agent too if you want to get private shore excursion companies. There's a couple that I use and that I recommend, but you can check with yours to see, what are good options for booking a private excursion if what you want you can't find via the cruise line.
Anything else to add to that, Jenni, that we've talked about?
No, those are all great. Another thing too, and I apologize, I feel like a broken record, but that was another thing too in our Facebook group where somebody would go to drop something like, hey, I'm about to drop this. If anybody wants it, this is what time. And they just kind of be, shuffling around and picking up stuff because, as you just said, people are, they book all these excursions and then they go, no, we don't want to do these, and then just release them. And so it was nice having a community where people were just like, hey, I'm dropping this. Someone wants to pick this up? Yeah, okay. And they coordinate times and somebody gets the excursion they want.
Yeah, I love that, where you can kind of work together a little bit and be able to drop something and somebody else can pick it up. Okay, let's turn to the ship real quick itself. We'll touch on a couple of points there. This is your first time in the Magic. You've been on our sister ship, the Wonder, before. What did you think overall of the Magic, Jenni?
We had been on the Fantasy a lot. So the first thing we saw was like, wow, it's smaller, which of course, being on the Fantasy, that's the first, you notice that right off the bat. But it was nice, again, that you could just walk from one end to the other and you got there, less than 5-minute walk, which was great. Everything was easy to get to. We stayed the deck below the kids club. So it was just a straight shot up the stairs and like 2 seconds to get from our room to the kids club, which was awesome. The cast definitely got to get to know you more, which is something you don't always see on the bigger ships because it is smaller. When you run into them, they'll be like, oh yeah, how was your day? I saw you at Cabanas, or, you see one of the kids club attendants and they referred to my daughter as Merida because she has the wild red hair. And they'd be like, hey, Merida, how's it going? And she's like, are you from the kids club? Oh, that's right. I went to the kids club. Let's go to the kids club, mommy. So there's definitely a lot of that going on. So it was definitely nice having that smaller feel. It wasn't as busy. It definitely was getting busier than our previous cruise in May. But still, it was nice that everybody had enough space. You never felt like you were crowded, which is one of the really nice things about the smaller ships is even when they're 100% capacity, at least I personally, I don't feel that giant crowd that you feel like when, the Dream Class ships that are high capacity.
How did your daughter like the kids clubs there on the Magic?
Oh, she loved it. This is like her second time of she got it this time. So this is her second time and she knew exactly what to do. She wasn't afraid of the hand washing stations. Last time she was, but this time she got through her fear and so she did it. And she's like, see, I'm washing my hands. And she would just go and take off and we would have to pull her out. There wasn't one night that she called to have us come get her. It was always, we had to go get her ourselves. And it was a lot of fun. There was actually one of the crew that looked at her and goes, were you guys on the Fantasy? I forget where other ship she said. And we were like, yeah, we were on. And she goes, I remember her from the kids club there. And so she actually remembered her from our May cruise on the Fantasy. And she had transferred to the Magic that fall. So it was kind of funny that somebody that she had in May was now on the Magic. So it was just kind of nice that, that extra interaction that she remembered our daughter, which was fun.
So being 4, did she spend more time in the lab or the club, would you say?
I would say the club, the slide that they have there, she could have done that all day long. She was just, whenever it was open, she would do that. They had the Pluto's pajama party and they had the princesses come through. I mean, any of that character stuff, she just ate it up.
Sometimes on these specialty cruises, they add some different things, whether it's onboard entertainment. Did they do anything special for the kids clubs? Like I know Christiana, they actually got to, when you guys did the Panama Canal, they actually got to spend the night in the kids club, right? Did they do anything special on this one?
I don't believe so. I mean, the only thing they made pillowcases with Pluto, but outside of that, I don't recall anything special that they did for this cruise. The cruise, there was definitely more kids than the previous because that was a repositioning from New York down to San Juan. And so for this one, it was more, they said, a typical kids club because they said back cruise, they had like 30 kids. And this one, there was quite a bit more than 30 kids.
Yeah, I don't think they do any of those specialty nights, Steve, unless it's like a much longer cruise.
That's kind of what I thought, but I just thought I'd just throw it out there and see if they had anything. All right, we won't go through all the different restaurants, but what did you think of Rapunzel's Royal Table? And did your daughter enjoy it?
Oh, she loved it. She ate that up. She loved the performance. She loved them walking around talking to Rapunzel and the different characters. And she had a great time. She absolutely loved the entertainment in that restaurant. The food, not so much, but the entertainment was, worth it to be there.
I'm going to put you on the spot here because you're a football fan, so that means you're opinionated. Most football fans are opinionated. You're opinionated about your team, right? So I want to know Animator's palette on the Dream Class ships or Animator's palettes on the Classic?
Dream Class.
Okay, there we go. That's the first one.
So like for Crush specifically, or just like you like the restaurant better?
The first time I just remember the first time that I went on the Wonder, and I remember sitting at the restaurant and I'm just like, I don't get it. Like I was just kind of looking around and then like, over time, obviously, it goes from the drawings to the full color, this and that. And I was just kind of like, like it was just anticlimactic. So that's been stuck in my head for like 10 plus years. And so, it was nice going on the dream class where they had the more immersive experience with Crush and everything. But yeah, that's just kind of been, maybe if I wouldn't have seen that, first, and I would have saw, the Fancy first and then the Wonder, maybe be a different story. But just back in, this was back in, I think 2007, I think, the technology wasn't as there as it is today. I might have a different opinion, but it's one of those things that just kind of stuck in my head. And since then I'm like, nah, okay.
I love it. I love people with different opinions. So that's awesome. So was your daughter old enough to go on the Aqua Dunk? Talking about slides. No, my husband did go on that. He went on that because then we kind of goaded him into it. We're like, Daddy, don't you want to go on that? It's like, yeah, Daddy. And he's like, okay, I guess I gotta go on it. And he did it once, and that was it. Because he told me he's sitting in this tube going, what did I get myself? And he said it like 5 seconds. Like he was just like, it was over and done. And he's like, yep, I'm good. So he could say he did it. He knocked it off his list, and I don't know if he'll do it again. Okay, 2 more questions for you. Did you guys get to do any just adult specific stuff? Did you go to Palo? Were you able to do that?
We didn't do Palo this time. It was pretty booked. Since she went to the kids club so much, we got a lot more time just to kind of hang around. We got to see, some of the adult decks. That was one thing we noticed and maybe it was just the sailing, but there didn't seem to be as much extra adult entertainment. Like, where you'd go into the lounges and there'd be somebody like playing a piano or guitar. They really didn't have that. Like there'd be TVs on, but they didn't kind of have that extra thing that you're used to. It was just kind of odd. Like they didn't have as much trivia going on or games. It was kind of, I don't know. It was different. And, maybe they were short on people or whatnot, but it was definitely a different adult experience than we're used to. We're used to a lot more going on, where this was kind of like something would end and then there really wasn't anything going on. Like that to us was kind of odd. I mean, we still had fun. We went and, went to the different bars. We sat outside. Oh, what is it? Is it Signal? Is that in the adult area?
Yeah.
Yeah. And they had that nice overhang, which, it's so nice at night. We'd go just sit out there and, talk to people and that. So we made our own entertainment. So even Disney didn't provide it, but we made our own.
I wonder if part of it is because it's such a busy cruise with all those ports that they're just sort of relying on people maybe being tired. And a good excuse.
Yeah. I mean, there was a lot of people around at night. So I don't know. I'm just going to chalk it up to maybe some people were sick. I don't know, but.
So 2 more questions before we turn to the ports itself. Did you have early or late dining?
Early.
Okay, early dining. And how did that work for you guys port-wise? I looking at the ports, most of them, the onboard time was 4:45, although I want to talk about Aruba because it was 11 p.m. I'm kind of curious about that. But how did that work for you as far as having early dining versus, and obviously your daughter's younger, so I'm guessing that's probably why you liked earlier.
Yeah, that was nice. What was it? There was one, and I'm trying to remember which port it was, where we were actually afraid we were going to miss dining because of our excursion time bumped up right against it. I think, it was Aruba, where we did a all day kind of beach day type thing. And there was 2 different times where you could start. There was I think it was 8:30 and 10 or something like that. So we did the later one, and they're like, oh, okay, well, your time to come back is at 4:30. And we're like, well, wait a second. We're not going to make dinner then, because by the time we get on the bus, get back, go through, it's going to be right at 5:15. There's no way. And so luckily we were able to get on an earlier bus than that, but they didn't exactly have the excursion times timed up in time for early dinner, which is probably because we were there till 11 o'clock at night. So they probably figured, doesn't matter if they missed dinner. Well, we wanted to do, I forget what restaurant we were that night, but we wanted to go to that restaurant. I think it was Rapunzel. So it's we can't miss that. We cannot miss that restaurant. So we kind of snuck our way back onto another bus to get back.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those tough things, right, Christy, whether you're in Europe or wherever you are, having that early dining and getting back sometimes from the excursions.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. And now I'm going to put you on the spot. We were talking about this ahead of time because we've heard this from a couple other different people. You seem to think the Magic was a little showing her wear and tear a little bit. And this is a year ago now, and she's still been sailing, but she does have a dry dock coming up. So what were your thoughts overall?
Yeah, she definitely is showing her age. And I know I have some bias. Like I said, we've been on the Fantasy a lot. We'd been on the Fantasy 6 months prior, but the rooms, you could definitely see the wear and tear, the hallways. I mean, just the little things like that where you could, we're looking around the bathroom going, yeah, she needs to go into dry dock. I mean, the bones works, the bones are great, but you walked into what is the lounge? It's now what Tiana's is on the Wonder. That area right there.
It's like the promenade lounge or something.
I think that's what it is. Yeah. That needs to be overhauled. So, I mean, it looks like circa, 90s, early 2000s. Like, especially when you look at, think of
like
Tiana's,
25 years ago.
Yes. It has not been touched and it needs to be touched because we just sat in there. Because they still had like the internet desk there, and they hadn't repurposed anything. It was just how it was probably back when it launched. It was like, yeah, this space could definitely. We're sitting there brainstorming. We're like, what could they do? Rapunzel's is right there, so we're sitting there, coming up with ideas of what they could do. But yeah, she definitely could use some love. But yeah, otherwise it was a good ship.
Does it hurt your soul a little, Steve?
It does. Because she's still a great trip and people have a wonderful time on her, but it is time for her to get a little loving, tender care, which is going to happen this year, which is exciting. And we're going to be back on her in October. So we'll be able to report back, and I'm sure somebody else will be on her before we get on her, but we'll definitely be talking about that a little bit. Anything else about the ships, Christy, you want to talk about?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, let's jump into the ports then. You guys leave Puerto Rico, kick off with Antigua, arrive there at 9 a.m., out at 4:45. What do you guys have planned there?
That we kind of did as a half port day, half sea day. Just because it was the first day and we're so used to having a sea day when we get on that, we just kind of slept in, and it was a rainy, overcast day. Not exactly the best day to start off a cruise. It was just kind of a blah day, weather days. So we ended up getting off the ship, walking around, just seeing what was, going on. And we didn't feel like, going to the beach just with the weather, because we didn't want to get stuck somewhere in the pouring rain, and it was forecasted to rain all day. So we just kind of did a chill, walking around, see what we saw, and then getting back on the ship and exploring the ship.
What is there to see there at that port?
When we've done it previously, we did an island tour. So we got to go all around and see different sites and see the beaches and that. So that's what we had done previously. And it was a nice tour like that. Maybe we would do something like that again if we went back in a longer period of time. We had looked at doing like a beach excursion, but with the weather, we were really glad we didn't, because we had heard that people got stuck in the rain and didn't have the best time.
But like at that port, what is there to do there?
Is it similar like to Nassau, would you say? I mean,
or is there even stuff?
Yes, like shops and, restaurants and people trying to sell you tours, because that's what they like to do. But yeah, just, I know our daughter was all like trying to see, I was like, okay. there wasn't anything to entertain the 4-year-old other than saying, do you want to buy something? You get one souvenir, and having her pick out a souvenir.
So kind of a get off, stretch your legs, wander around the shops, that type of day.
If we hadn't have been there before, we would have done something different. But since we had been there before, we were kind of like, okay, we did the tour. We can't go to the beach, and we'll just kind of hang out.
I mean, another thing that we'll ask you about your tips and thoughts about it afterwards. But when you get these busy port days, one thing that's worked for us is always to try to find at least one port where it's not quite so busy. Mm-hmm. And so that's a great thing to do, is maybe just get off, wander around, look at the shops, and head back on one day. So did this work out for you as far as that goes, as far as kind of making it so it wasn't such a slog going from port to port to port?
Yeah, that definitely helped. Just having like no expectations for the day. It was a nice way to start it.
I hate to say slog. Sorry. You're on vacation. It's a slog. All right. So from Antigua, you guys head over to St. Lucia. Had you been there before, and what did you guys have planned?
We had been there for a wedding many, 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 many years ago. So this was the first time that we had gone with our daughter. So that was fun. We went to, we got off the ship and went to the beach, which was a lot of fun. And we looked off the distance. We're like, is that the resort we stayed at? So he watched her, and I walked down, and sure enough, there was a resort that we stayed at back in 2015. So that was kind of fun walking, like, oh, I remember that. But we had a great time. Got an umbrella and a couple chairs and just sit, and she played in the water. We had to drag her out to go back, but it was a great beach day. We just kind of chilled and hanged out, and it was a good time. The weather was really nice. The water was so super blue. It was so nice, and it was just a great day.
Did you plan this one yourself, or did you buy it through Disney?
We did it ourselves. Yeah, it was pretty. I mean, I feel like for the 3 of us round trip, I think maybe it was like $40 for the transportation. And then the umbrella and chairs was probably around like $20, $25.
Did you know which beach you were going to go to ahead of time? Or did you let the driver suggest it?
We kind of had an idea based on where we were at the port. We didn't want to go too far since we were doing it on our own. So they gave us like 2 options, and we'd heard the name Rodney Bay. Like, yep, we know what beach that is. So we were good with that one, which is funny now because for those that watch Below Deck this season, they are based out of there. So every time we're like looking like seeing what we see, like, oh, I remember that. Oh, I see that. Oh, I see that. So it's kind of fun watching that and reminiscing back to our trip.
Was there like beach activities for bigger kids as far as like paddle boards and that type of stuff? And was there food there as well?
You could, if you walked farther down to one of the resorts, you could do that. There was somebody walking around, and it smelled good, but the last time I was there, I made the mistake of drinking the water and not bottled water. So I'm a little bit extra cautious on the islands now. So we didn't buy any food, but it sure smelled good. I can say that for sure.
Have you been there before, Christy?
St. Lucia?
Yeah.
I have not.
Okay. So from there, St. Lucia, you go to a day at sea. Did you guys do anything exciting on your day at sea? How'd you relax, or what were you excited to do? How do you spend the time on the Magic?
Yeah, it was cool. Our daughter is an avid swimmer, so she did the kids soup. And yes, it was kids soup. And she just had a ton of fun sitting in the pool, watching movies. Tried to get her going on the slide, but she didn't feel comfortable doing that. And then kids club. She just would go to the kids club. And if we would have known ahead of time how much time she's going to spend in the kids club, like we would have brought a book. Like that was one thing we were kind of kicking ourselves like, hey, she's in the kids club. What are we going to do? Don't have and we're just kind of like, okay, I guess we'll just sit here and talk to each other. But he's like, in hindsight, we're like, we probably should have brought a book or something. But yeah, we had to tear her out of that kids club. So between the pool and the kids club, she was set.
It sounds much like Blake.
If you and Dave had faced that, you're like so busy. I remember the times where you're so busy. It's like, I haven't really talked to you for 5 years. What are we going to say?
Wow.
No, just kidding.
Although that's kind of what it was like at dinner. We were like, we've just been having dinner for a week. We don't need to really talk too much at dinner today.
Yeah.
Let's just eat.
Yeah. What did you do for the last week? Oh, we were all together for a week.
For every meal.
One of these days I'm going to read a book, Jenny. So I like your idea on that.
You do read books. I saw you read a book or have a book.
I have it, but I start to read it and then I get distracted. I'm always like, I'm too busy watching people and see what they're doing and everything else. And they go to get
I don't feel bad for keeping you from reading your book because you're not doing it anyway.
No. Then yeah, you cruise with these people and they like to show up and they want to talk with you and it's a good time. So
I brought a book on my last cruise and read 1 page.
You were ice skating and everything else.
Very disappointed with myself.
All right, let's head to Aruba, part of the ABC Islands, right?
Yes.
Awesome. So Aruba, you're there till 11 p.m. Why did they stay till 11 p.m. and then what'd you do?
So they stay till 11. I'm going to answer this question because the dining is really good in Aruba and people are excited about eating in all the restaurants.
I need a recommendation before we go. Anyways, all right. What did you guys do, Jenny?
I'll say spoiler alert. We actually left before 11. Everybody was on the ship so early that we actually departed before 11 o'clock. So they didn't even need to everybody. Yeah, because we're like, it's not 11. We're moving. We're like, okay. But yeah, so there we did a all-inclusive beach resort. We had done one in Mexico, so we thought we would try one again on this trip. And
which resort?
It was, I just saw the brochure when I was cleaning the other day. Shoot, I think it was called the De Palms Resort. Apparently it's like the like day resort, I guess, in there. But I will admit it was a bit disappointing. So what they do is they bus you over to the dock and you get on a ferry and then it takes you over to the island. So it's like, I think it's the Palm Island and everything is there. So you're kind of stuck there until the boat comes to take you back to the mainland. And from there they had a kiddie pool, like with like the little slides in that. They had a beach. You could go snorkeling. They had one of those banana boat rides, which was funny that I guess it's very highly promoted with the cruise ships. And there was actually a sign for the banana boat saying Carnival guests are not allowed to ride. So I don't know what happened, but apparently if you are on Carnival and you're at that island, you cannot go on the banana boat. So I just thought that was funny because I'm just like, what? Okay. Yeah. Yeah, so you could do different things. I will say that the beach area was not very big. If you were to compare it to what the family beach is at Castaway, I would say it's about a fourth of that. So needless to say, everybody's crammed together. Like there was no room to spread out whatsoever. But they did have this little area they called their flamingo sanctuary. And so they had a couple flamingos that are just kind of walking back and forth, back and forth. And that was probably about the size of a cabana. Like it was very small for this thing. I call it airport sanctuary. But she had a good time playing around. The only other knock I would give it is that we looked down and we saw a little nugget in the kiddie area, and no one was taking care of it. So I walked over and I said, "Excuse me, it looks like some kid left something in the pool." They're like, "Oh yeah, we'll take care of that." And then they just kept on talking. And I'm like, okay, we're getting her out of here because no one's telling me to take care of this little thing. So in hindsight, I wish I would have said something to Disney when I got back on the ship, because for how much we paid, I think it was like 120 per adult and like 80 something for her. We did not get our money's worth between that and the buffet. Like it was just not, and it was in air quote all inclusive. So it was, food, drinks, everything was included, but it just, for the price we paid for what it wasn't worth the money. And like I say, I'm kicking myself now that I didn't say something about the boat.
That's disappointing.
Yeah.
But she had a good time. The kid had a good time.
Any thoughts on other things to do in Aruba there, Christy? I know you've been there.
The beaches are very popular, so they're also more expensive. So like at another island to rent beach chairs, like Jenni said, it's $25 for a couple of chairs and an umbrella and sometimes some drinks. Aruba, even 5 years ago, it was $45 for beach chairs and a couple of drinks and an umbrella. So Aruba has some beach inflation, but they are beautiful beaches.
And good point, Jenni, as far as, giving that feedback to Disney so that they know that, so that hopefully maybe they pick a different place next time for people if they get enough people saying that, this really isn't worth what we're paying for it, especially the little incident in the pool. That's disappointing.
Yeah, I definitely say, like I say, we were on the second one group that came over, and we were supposed to leave like 2 hours later. And there was different color armbands marking who came when. There was a lot of people that came on over our boat that were sneaking on off early like the rest of us. So we weren't the only ones that were kind of like, okay, we're done. We weren't. I don't think there was many Disney people staying the full time.
I do find it funny, the cultures of different cruise lines. So the Carnival can't go on the banana boat, and Disney's pulling out before 11 p.m. because everybody's in bed already.
Yeah.
Nobody's staying up for that late dining.
That is funny.
All right. From Aruba, you guys head over to Bonaire. Bonaire is the place for scuba diving, right, Christy?
Mm-hmm.
Is that the one of the top rated places for scuba diving? Had you been there, Jenni? And would you guys have fun?
We had been there once before, and it was my favorite of that trip. And I would probably say it's my favorite of this trip because it is still untouched. It's not the untouched as Tortola is, but it's still, there's not a Marriott, there's not a 7-Eleven, there's not a TGI Fridays. Like, Western civilization has not gotten there yet, which makes it so nice. It's its own island, and the people are so nice, and they're so excited to see Disney. Like you saw everybody along the shore, as we were leaving, waving, and the characters came out. I mean, it was just it was so special, and it's a really walkable port. We got off. We were going to try to do one thing. I'll honestly admit, I forgot to book it. I was going to book it, and I completely forgot. And I was like, maybe this is a sign that I shouldn't. And sure enough, it was going to be one of these, it's like a go-kart, but it has like a sail on it. And the sail, I guess, helps like move you around, but it was pouring rain. So they would have canceled it anyway. So I guess in hindsight, like the universe knew, hey, it's going to pour rain. So you wouldn't be able to do this excursion anyway if you booked it. But so we walked around town, kids splashed in some puddles and got to go to a local market. They have a whole kind of like a farmer's market set up for the ships when they come in. And we were the only ship in dock, which was awesome. So they had it all set up just for us. So all the different vendors selling their things, they were there just for us, which is kind of cool because, it takes some effort to set up a market. So that was really nice. And, we walked around, saw how some things had changed since the last time we were there. But, again, it still had the same charm that it did, the first time that we were there. And we had a great time. I just wish it wouldn't have poured. Like that would have made the day better because then once it poured, it was 90% humidity. Like you couldn't walk outside and be like, ooh, it smacked you in the face. That was probably our most humid day. But yeah, I would definitely go to the island in a heartbeat. Like, the next time we go on to Southern Caribbean, knock on wood, like that's on my list. Like if Bonaire's not on there, I ain't going.
Thoughts about Bonaire, Christy?
I don't think I've ever been there. Frank he came on, right, and talked about it, and he did something with salts.
He did something with goats, didn't he? Was there goats?
Oh, maybe. It was something that's on their website that they're very well known for.
Yeah.
Because remember, whatever he said.
Yes. Yes, go
It's
ahead.
the pink salt, because we did that on our first cruise. Yeah, we did the tour and they took you to the pink salt, and it's pink. It is a pink salted beach. Yeah, and it's beautiful. But yeah, they're definitely known for that. I don't know if they have flamingos too, but yeah, the pink salt beach is one thing they're definitely known for.
Yeah, because I think like he said something and I Googled it and it was like the first thing that the website talked about. So
Have you ever scuba dived, Jenny?
I have not, but I have friends that's their number one destination to go to. Like they're now trained, certified to teach scuba, and that's their ultimate favorite place to go.
It's funny because each one of these ports has like a picture, and Bonaire is the only one that has like it's a picture of a sunken ship. So scuba diving obviously is big there. So, anyways, Christy.
maybe not the best for your cruise ship passengers.
Well, no, I mean, it's an old ship. It's an old sunken ship.
Come here where you have a sunken ship. So I have a client that is a dive master, and he said some of the best locations were St. Lucia and then Bonaire in the Caribbean for scuba diving. Like those are his favorites. Besides, like places like Belize is amazing and Honduras is amazing.
And
places to check out.
I'm gonna make an assumption that I'm gonna make an assumption that snorkeling would be good at those places too. Any idea?
Oh, yeah.
I don't know the answer to that. I mean, it's hard. You have to have a shallow enough spot for snorkeling. That's the only, thing. Sure. And I don't know what's there.
Did anybody talk about snorkeling? Because I know we have a lot of people that like to go on snorkeling excursions. Anybody talk about snorkeling that stuck in your mind at any of these islands, Jenny?
I would say all of them. People did them at one stop or not, because they had the different, almost every port stop had a catamaran snorkel excursion. So
Okay.
all of them had it.
I love those.
I know we looked seriously at one at St. Lucia, but it came down to the price and the age. And for what we could do with her age, it just didn't work out. But yeah, that was something that is something we want to do when she's older. So, well, now that she's 5, we can start doing them. But yeah, that's something we want to do. Those look like fun.
I love catamaran snorkel trips. Like they're my highlights almost of every cruise, a catamaran trip.
We saw that octopus, remember? Well, did you get to see it? Yeah.
I didn't. I have seen an octopus before scuba diving in Hawaii, actually.
Yeah.
But yeah, I wasn't down there then. You guys were out a long time that day snorkeling. Like I swear it'd been over 45 minutes. You're still out there. I was done. I was ready to be done.
You're heading back for the rum punch or something like that.
I didn't have any on that trip, but it was so pretty. That boat was great. It was just relaxing. I like to take a boat when I'm on a ship.
It was with a great view of the beach and everything like that. So, okay. From Bonaire, you guys get a day at sea. I always appreciate a day at sea before they kick you off in Puerto Rico. How was that?
Oh, it was so nice. Except we realized the next day we had to go home. But it was a nice day. It was nice just to kind of, pack at our own pace, because usually on the Castaway day, you got to hurry up and pack. You got to go Castaway, and then you got to leave Castaway early to go and pack. And so it was nice. Like we had the time to just get everything settled and ready to go and get ready for our re-entry into the real world.
So any thoughts about getting off the ship in Puerto Rico to the airport and leaving? Any advice for people or tips?
It is super easy. Get a porter, because they put you through customs in like 5 seconds flat. We had a guy come get our luggage, and it was literally not even 5 minutes from putting our luggage on until we were out in the parking lot. He got us a cab and we were on our way. So that was, and that's also something too that we learned, or we just observed, I should say, when we got on the ship. Like typically, when at the ports, you tip the porter when you drop your bags. Like, here's my bags, here's a 10, 20, however you have bags you have. Well, people weren't doing that in Puerto Rico. So when we gave them like, hey, here's your tip for taking our bags, and you were like, oh, thank you. Our bags were out in front of our door at 2:00. Like they were right there, right. And we're like, sweet. Like we paid them and our bags got, shot up the list to get on the ship. So that is one thing that for whatever reason, people weren't tipping in Puerto Rico. And, that's just something that, I've never not seen in any port, but it was odd to see that people weren't. And then when we tipped, they were very appreciative when we did.
It's funny, their bags didn't quite make it home with them, did they? When they didn't tip the port. I shouldn't say that. I shouldn't say or joke about that, but yeah, definitely tip your porters if they're working for you. That's what they're doing out there. Okay, Jenny. So think about this trip. You had a lot of ports. Your daughter was 4. What kind of tips or tricks or what kind of thoughts did you learn that you want to pass on to people who might book this cruise in the future, whether it's with bigger kids or especially like in your experience with a younger daughter?
I would definitely say pace yourself. Don't, leave yourself at times at the ports to just kind of go with the flow. So if you get up early to do something, don't be in a mad rush to get back, walk around. Or, if you're tired, then go to the beach late. It's the beach is going to be there, but your sleep may not, and you don't always want to have a grumpy kid. Like you can push, but eventually they'll snap and be really cranky, and then you've lost an entire day. So try to build in those like quiet times to, just go back to the room and rest. It may be a struggle because it was a struggle with us to get her to rest, but in the end, it was worth it. I would also say too is hydrate, because our daughter got dehydrated one night and woke us up at 3 a.m. and we had to have a bedroom change. So, and they said, yeah, it was dehydration. She had been go so much and not drinking enough water, and so I would definitely remember to hydrate. Even if it is humid, you still got to continuously hydrate, especially down there. So, the water is free on deck 10, I forget, on the smaller ships. But yeah, just always have, bring a water bottle and just continuously keep yourself and your kids hydrated, because it's really easy to be go and become dehydrated. The next thing you know, you're stuck in your room for half a day trying to feel better. So.
And one of the things that has kind of worked for us too, just to kind of throw it out, and I think we've talked about this too, is when you have these busy port days like that, we kind of limit ourselves to one thing in the evening. Sometimes it's easy to get caught and sucked up into everything that's happening at night. But instead of doing 8 different things at night and then having to get up early in the next morning and go again at another port, we'll kind of limit ourselves to one kind of activity or something like that. So that's helped us as well. Any thoughts, Christy?
No, I agree to that. You have to know your limitations and what you are capable of. Like my family, we know we're not capable of going morning to night every single day, all day, or, even all day during the afternoon with the excursions. So then we do have to limit what we do outside of that. So it's everybody's family is different. I feel like there are definitely families out there that are like, okay, we got to get the next activity. We got to get the next one. We're going to go to this one and we're going to have that one. We're going to go over there. And they can do that for a week. I am not that person.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like quite of a vacation for us when we do that. We just wear ourselves out by the end of the 7 days. So,
right.
Well, Jenny, anything else you want to add about this trip that we didn't talk about?
Well, one nice feature that we had with our Facebook group is they set up I think it was a WhatsApp, that they had a chat. So, and that's free on the ship. So you could go ahead and send messages. And so in like the mornings, people would be like, hey, who knows the best way to get to what beach? Or, hey, we forgot to book an excursion. Anyone have any ideas, or anybody do anything that's, easy to get to? And people were exchanging ideas and different things throughout the week, which was nice, because there was one day someone's like, oh, I forgot this. Is anybody that's out and about seen this on the island? And somebody be like, oh yeah, I saw this here. And so they would know where to go. So it was nice kind of having that like additional communication and, kind of people crowdsourcing information on how to do things or how to find things when we were out and about.
That's brilliant. I had never heard of that on a cruise Facebook group before, to do a WhatsApp app.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was. I like double check. Like, yeah, it was a WhatsApp. Yeah, so everybody signed up ahead of time, and then once we got on the boat, it was okay, and it was active, and it worked out really well.
Well, Jenny, thank you so much for coming back on. Sorry, it's been a while since we had you on last. And thank you so much for kind of talking about a cruise that has been a bit, but I was excited to bring this one out just because of the different ports and then kind of the idea of how busy it is to get down to the Southern Caribbean and some challenges when your kids are a little bit younger. What's next for you guys? Where are you headed? We were kind of in spring break and heading towards the summer. What kind of plans do you guys have?
So we're trying, since this is the last year my daughter's in daycare, to pull off a cruise in May, because after this year, we cannot take off in May for the next 12, 13 years.
You can take off in May. You can take your kid out
Georgia's
of school.
schools end the week before Memorial Day. So
you have to go early May.
Yeah, it's very hard to take off. So yeah, so we're going to try to squeeze in a week on the Fantasy. We're trying to figure that out this week, actually. And then we also have a trip booked in November on the Dream. It's a repositioning from New York down to San Juan. So it goes, and it's a 6-night. It goes from New York, Bermuda, day at sea. I think it's 2 days at sea, and then Tortola, and then San Juan, I forget. But yeah, so we haven't been on the Dream. So that'll be hopefully knocking one off the list. We're going to tell school it's educational. So, because, we're going to be in New York and going to Bermuda. So that's going to be a lot of fun.
That's a great trip. You get Tortola and Bermuda, and plus you get to sail out of New York. Wow.
Yeah, that's the part I'm really looking for, sailing out of New York. My husband's only been to New York once. Our daughter's never been. I've only been there a handful of times. So I think just the sailing is just going to be fun just by itself.
Have you been to Bermuda, Christy?
I haven't.
That's a place I really want to go one of these days.
Yeah, same. There's so much to see in the world. So many places to go.
As Christy said, you'll be able to find those advantages as far as when you can travel with your daughter, even going forward and stuff like that. So it's right. We're just glad that our kids still want to travel with us right now. So
yeah, like why would kids not want a vacation? I don't.
I don't know.
I would call the doctor if that happened.
Yeah.
Clearly something is wrong with this child.
Well, I guess that's going to do it for tonight. Once again, Jenni, thank you so much for talking about your trip down to the Southern Caribbean. All the best as you sail on the Fantasy here, hopefully once you figure it out in May, and look forward to definitely come back on, if not that one, after your trip down to Bermuda and then Tortola as well in the Dream. Love to hear your thoughts about that.
Sounds good.
All right, all the best, and we'll talk to you soon. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.
Well, that's going to wrap up our show today. Once again, I really want to thank Jenni for coming on and sharing her experiences and her family's experiences. They sailed down to the Southern Caribbean on the beautiful Disney Magic. And we have got another show. Jenni's cruise was quite a while ago, but Frank and his beautiful wife were just down in the Southern Caribbean as well. And we'll have that out for you next week, kind of comparing Jenni's experiences with Frank's and his wife's as they just sailed on the Southern Caribbean, as well as we take a look at kind of a place where a lot of people don't usually get to sail with Disney Cruise Line. As always, we'd like to give a huge shout out to our Patreon supporters. They help bring this show to you each and every week ad-free. If you'd like to find out how you can support the show and more about our Patreon program, you can go over to patreon.com/DCL podcast and find out all the information there. Also, if you have time to leave us an iTunes review, actually it's not even iTunes, it's Apple Podcasts. I should know that by now, or wherever you listen to this podcast. If you can take the time to leave us a review there, that helps our show get a little bit better known in the Disney cruising, and just the Disney podcasting community in general. We thank each and every one of you for taking the time to do that. Well, believe it or not, in some states, kids are back in school already, and for some of us, like up here in the Northwest, we've still got a couple weeks before that happens. So as the summer starts to kind of wind down, on behalf of myself, Steve, Christy, Lake, and Nova, all of us here at the DCL Podcast, we want to wish you to enjoy time with family and friends, whether you're out on a Disney cruise, Adventures by Disney, or getting ready for a Run Disney event this fall. On behalf of all of us here, we want to wish you to be well, enjoy the time with family and friends, and we'll see you next time on the DCL Podcast. Goodbye, everybody.
The DCL Podcast is not affiliated with the Disney Cruise Line, Walt Disney Company, Adventures by Disney, or Run Disney. All of the opinions expressed on our shows are those of the hosts and the guests who appear on the show. If you have any questions about any of these products, please contact the Walt Disney Company.